started. I wasn't quite sure who was going to show up and who wasn't, so we'll just get rolling here. So I had sent out that survey a couple weeks ago about just what you're currently doing in your classrooms that could support teaching computer science concepts and building critical thinking skills. And overall I got 10 responses. I focused on just 8 of them because 2 of them came from our related arts teachers, and you know that's just a whole different ballgame whenever you try to intertwine computer science concepts in with phys ed and what's the one that Shingleton teaches? Family Consumer Sciences. Thank you. I should have remembered that. So one of the reasons I was doing this is because of the program I'm going through. So I'm doing that computer science educator program. I decided to go through BGSU. This is supported through the Teach CS grant that Ohio is offering currently. One of the reasons that they piloted this grant was because it's recommended that by 2030 we add CS as a credit for graduation. So lumping this in with what I do, teaching math, we have the options to add Algebra 2 equivalency courses, and a lot of those intertwine computer science concepts and even some programming in there. And if a teacher would have both a math and a computer science teaching license, then students could get both of those credits. So that's one of the reasons why I jumped on board with this, because I was like, job security, let's do this. So also why this relates to you is because we're always trying to improve and do what's best for students, and in the future, if this is going to be a graduation requirement, the more times that we can interject these ideas and these resources into students' learning, the more they're going to see it as applicable to their futures. So I looked at the survey results, and I looked at things that we were doing really well, things that a lot of people were saying that they already currently do in their classrooms, and then areas where, I didn't really get very many responses. So a lot of, actually 9 out of 10 of the teachers that responded said that they incorporate data and analysis, which is a computer science concept, as it also, goes with science and math. So a lot of people were saying, yeah, I definitely, look at data with my students and we analyze it and think about, how it applies to the context that we're dealing with. So areas of improvement though is, we're not really incorporating a lot of algorithms or programming or looking at how computing impacts students' lives. As for teaching strategies, we got a lot of professional development on UDL. I know that a lot of you, especially social studies teachers, try to incorporate project-based learning and real-world application, and especially those discussions and debates. But areas we could improve upon is looking at problem-based learning, cross-curricular learning, and then looking at some of that concept mapping and mind mapping that helps build those critical thinking skills. And then as for computer science practices, a lot of the areas that we need to improve upon is just looking at how we're using our computers to create computational artifacts that students can use and refine and communicate their ideas with others using computing. So using that information from the survey, I looked at collecting a variety of resources for teachers here at CHS so that they can, kind of work on those areas that we need to improve upon. So I looked at some web-based resources, some professional learning options, and I also constructed some ready-to-use resources using some AI, and I'll be happy to show you how you can do that for yourselves today as well. And in your slides that you have here, this is a link that goes to, I think it's CS K-12 or K-12 CS, and it just kind of goes over the different computer science practices and concepts and how they intertwine to different subjects. This here is just a condensed table of the information that I shared with you individually yesterday. So social studies teachers would have received an email, and one of the documents in there was like a broad-based set of resources for all of social studies, and then you would have noticed a different section that was for your course. So like world history had some resources that were specific to world history, and economics had specific resources for economics. And but these were just examples of what you would see in those documents in case you didn't look at that yesterday. One of the resources that I put here under ELA, but is also probably pretty helpful for social studies, was that Harvard Graduate School of Education has case studies that you could use in your classroom, and I know that a lot of our AI resources have the option where you can adjust the reading levels. So if you're interested in any of those case studies that might tie to a topic that you're currently working on, you could always use those AI resources to refine that reading so that it's more at your students' reading level. Questions so far? Here are some of the examples of professional learning. Again, you would see some of these in your individual documents that you received yesterday, but I kind of just grouped it into articles and then like workshops or like online PD that you can take in order to build your understanding of what computer science looks like. And then especially this code.org has a whole lot of different professional developments, both free and paid for, that you could look at that are specific to individual websites that promote coding and critical thinking skills. So here is the slide about the ready-to-use resources. So specifically, I looked at using IXL Spark Studio, which is the new resource that IXL offers. You should have received an email about that probably a week or two ago. Like, it's brand new, they just launched it. But they have all kinds of AI-powered resources there. And I looked specifically at the choice board, the project planner, and then they do have that adjusting reading level option there. Magic School AI. I know that was brought up briefly in our DIFIT training, but I've played around with that one as well. Looking again at the project-based learning, group work generator, and the standards unpacker. Those are pretty cool resources that you can use to help, navigate your teaching decisions. And then the DIFIT, when I attended that training a couple weeks ago, like, it didn't feel like it was very applicable to my math setting. But when I was looking for resources for ELA and social studies, I felt like that had more to offer in those content areas. I did screenshot here an example of what the choice board options look like. So this is the screen that you would first get whenever you select the choice board. You would tell it what you're teaching, what grade level you're working on, and then additional customizations. So in those additional customizations, that's where I just grouped all of those areas of improvement that we looked at a couple slides ago. I put that all in the additional customizations, and then it provided me a choice board with a bunch of different topics here. So like algorithm exploration, impact reflection, problem-based poster, mind mapping, artifact creation, cross-curricular projects. So it took all of those different areas that we need to work on and put it into one choice board. And you do have the option in IXL and Magic School AI that you can edit these. I just didn't edit it. The only thing I did a few times was if there was one that was specific to like making a code for something, I tried to avoid those because I know that I don't feel like any of the teachers here are like, yeah, I need to add coding in my classroom. But computer science is way more than just coding, so that's why I tried to add topics in here that I felt that people would be more interested or able to just launch in their classroom without a whole lot of background knowledge. So like whenever a programming one did come up, I just hit like the edit button and it kind of gives you like a refresh button here and it'll generate a new choice board option there for you. And that's really what I kind of put together for you to introduce this topic. And as I mentioned in the email, I am happy to meet with you individually if you want to talk about like specific areas of improvement that you would like to add to your classroom or about any of the resources that I've offered. There are a lot of neat ones on there that I had never seen before. And there are a lot of sites that offer like the PBL works. I don't know if you've ever explored there, but they have a bunch of projects already prepared for you that cover like multiple content areas for one project. So that would be an awesome resource to just check out and maybe, you know, pick a project to try out in the spring, you know, after we get testing done or whatever. So if you could, I do have this Google form linked here. If you could give me some feedback on the information I presented to you, that would be really helpful. And then I will kind of put that information together to turn in for my final project. All right.
The choice board generator,
Yeah.
what was that under?
So there are 3 options here. We have the IXL Spark Studio, the Magic School AI, and the DFIT website. Those are the 3 things that I used that were AI based. In your individual document that I would have emailed to you, let's see. So this is the document that I would have sent to you. I already prepared a few of these for you. So here is an IXL Spark Studio choice board for econ, a project for econ, and a Magic School AI project for econ. So like, if I open up this project, so like the information they provide to you is, you know, very general, and you're able to, you know, refine this to be more specific to what your needs are. But I went and specifically looked at impacts of computing on economics and debate and analysis. And like I said, whenever I customized, I kind of dumped all of the areas of improvement. So it kind of touches on all of those, but you can always, you know, add or remove things from this as you'd like.
No, I'm on the Spark Studio right this minute.
Okay.
Where do I go to click to do like a game like that?
Okay.
Choice board, I see.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's just so much to look at.
There-
How do I get
there
the
is.
IXL from, how do I get the Spark Studio from IXL? Just right there.
Right here.
Ah, right
Yep.
in front of me.
Yep.
Just didn't see
Yep,
it.
so that link is right there. And then the tools library is, you know, pretty easy to go around. It doesn't alphabetize it. Like, I wish that there was a little more order to it, but there's not. But that choice board option is right there. And from my example, you had seen I did like Algebra 1 and Computer Science, my grade level, and then my customizations. But I mean, I was really impressed with what it came up with just those few basic pieces of information.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Is there anything else you guys wanted to see?
The one that just caught my eye, and it's because we're doing it right now, is Plessy v. Ferguson and Brown versus Board of Education on issues of segregation and such.
Mm-hmm.
But the one that was the job search for teaching for social justice and justice in the schools would be something that I think, you know, thinking outside the box where you could get kids to start thinking about, you know, segregation, and then the fact that this lady's offered a job at a charter school with white people with the same background she has, or the other job, which is inner city, where she would probably be the only white person teaching to black children, and how, you know, I guess the social consequences that could come with that.
Yeah.
Would be something that I would be interested in.
Yeah, one of the things that we talked a lot about, well, I wouldn't say a lot, but one of the topics that we could explore in this course that I was looking at is like ethical development in relation to computer science concepts, like what that looks like at different grade bands and stuff, and how computers are involved in that.
Right.
And so that's why I tried to, you know, interject some of those ideas in here too.
That particular one, I didn't go into it deep, I just kind of read a brief summary of it, but if you could get the kids to look into her situation and then start having those conversations about, you know, different backgrounds and the issues, and then translate that to 1896 and
Right.
not necessarily 2024.
Right.
You know,
But even comparing those, you know, what does that look like back then versus now?
The conversation I had with my kids was think about the people that are on the Supreme Court that made the ruling in Plessy v. Ferguson, which said segregation was legal. I said some of them potentially could have been slave owners or had ties to people that were slave owners, and therefore that's why their mentality. I said, but if we put you guys on that Supreme Court today, what would your ruling be? And I said, it's because you've grown up in a different era. And I used my dad as an example. I'll never forget this. My dad was not a racist man, but we're driving in Yorksville, Ohio in about 1974. And there was a black man holding hands with a white woman going down the street, and my dad freaked out. To me, it wasn't a big deal.
Right.
I mean, it was different, but it wasn't a big to him because how he was brought up and what his parents and grandparents trained him, it was a big deal to him.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me forever. And, I told kids today, what would you think about if you saw a black man holding hands with a white woman walking down the sidewalk? What would you think? Not a thing, because you've been raised in a different time, and it really gives them difficulty to understand.
Yeah.
I used another example with them too. If I was a slave owner and I had $100,000 worth of slaves and we lose a civil war, what did I just lose? I said, am I going to be mad? That's $100,000 I just lost. I'd be furious, and I would not treat them the same way because of my loss of money.
Right.
I said, so you have to understand their perspective.
Yeah. And that's a big thing with the critical thinking is that a lot of times students don't,
You only
take
see it
themselves
from
out of the situation.
You only see it from
and
your
think about it.
perspective, your time. You don't look at it from the perspective of the people who lived back then, and it's difficult for kids to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Anything else? Okay, well, thank you so much for coming, and thank you for any feedback that you can offer. And if you ever want to talk computer science education, I guess I'm your girl.
Yeah, I put it in there, I don't even know what to ask you right now.
Yeah.
But, the only thing I would say, if you put our Chromebook screencast really easily. So if you put from scratch, hey, I'm gonna walk you through how to create a choice board, general, in math, and just put it in there. And we can figure it out from there, but, just click, 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 click. I do with my kids every once in a
That's the
while.
big thing with teachers, I think, in general, is if the easier you can make it for someone to pick up a new nugget to use in their room.
Right.
Hey, man, take 5 minutes to look at this, and here's what you do. Click,
You
click,
did.
click.
And I know I've gone
Even
back to
if it's a
yours
video,
several times,
It's a video you create where you actually
screencasts.
do it.
I like screencasts.
Yeah.
I do
but-
too.
But that's just me.
Yeah.
When I'm sick, I usually try to drop one in for the kids for instructions, so there's no.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that feedback, because one of the things that John talked to me about before I did this presentation was that the big thing is follow through afterwards, following up with you guys, seeing what kind of help I could offer so that you are trying to integrate these ideas. So I might actually use that idea to do a quick screencastify on how to use, one of those.
Do you know how our computer's doing too? Have you tried it on here?
On the
Chromebook?
for screencastify?
Mhm. No,
Oh.
just screencast.
Oh, just screencast. No,
On
I
here?
have not.
So if you go into the menu and you type out screencast, it has it all just right here.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then you pull it up and you boom.
And you could end up putting a puzzle piece up on your bar that you can go right to it as
If you
well.
want to use screencastify, but
Yeah.
right there, I just do it and it just runs it through this.
Yeah, that's great.
It creates it, then you can share it with the links.
Thanks.
Oh, you're just using the regular,
On
not
the Chromebook.
screencast, just your regular camera on your Chromebook.
Yeah, you can do a screencast from it.
Yeah, that's
No.
awesome.
Every once in a while, it blocks the link, securely does so.
Yeah.
It's always fun when I'm homesick. Hey Jason, can you unlock this, please? Yeah, I'll do it for